Hi everyone, welcome to the Sunday Social. We had a 1 week break, but we are back with full force. I was on a little bit of a vacation, so we are back with hopefully a good show on new releases. I also might be releasing this as a podcast, so I might have to explain some of the selections here. But before we do that, let's do a wristwatch check. Dave, you are in the hot seat. What watch are you wearing today?
Well, I've just taken it off my wrist, but I have my, let's see if it'll focus. There we go. Citizen 1. Oh, it's not focusing. There we go.
Oh.
My Citizen 1, which is ludicrously thin.
Oh,
wow.
It's ultra thin, isn't it? Wow.
So this is the one with the movement that is, well, the one gives it away. It's a 1 millimeter thick movement. It is quartz, so it's an eco drive from quartz. But yeah, they made a very small number of these. I think they still do them. Every year they launch a handful of them, but yes, it's ludicrously thin. What does always make me laugh, though, is that as this is a Citizen, if I reach here, this is another little Citizen beast, but this gives you a kind of size comparator.
Yeah.
It's in 10.
So yeah,
yeah.
so
Awesome.
we go from there to there. So yeah, it's a cool wee piece. I have noticed though it does need exposure to light, and if you live in Scotland in the winter, light is the last thing you ever see.
It's funny actually because I've reviewed the EcoZilla version, which I think is probably a similar size to that one, and they're actually quite wearable. Like surprisingly, because of the way that the case is round.
Yeah, because you've not really got any lugs. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's ludicrously large, but because there's no lug on it, it kind of doesn't wear as big as you would maybe expect it to wear. So yeah, it's a bit ludicrous. I do love the big chunky, stupid looking things that Citizen do. They're always good.
That one.
Oh, and somebody's commenting on your history of the iPod museum in the
here, yeah, so behind me here, yeah, that is every single iPod ever made by Apple up there. So we start in the top corner up there with a generation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down there somewhere, touch, all the little minis, etc. Yeah, so they're all there.
There we go.
And they all still work.
Wow.
Yeah, because that original one had FireWire on it, didn't it?
Yeah, the original, that's a proper Gen 1, which was the one that was 1 gigabyte with the proper click wheel, and then they brought a 5 gigabyte version out, if I remember rightly. I think there's a 5 gig. I've got a 5 gig kicking about somewhere, but yeah, I've always remembered to charge them, so they've stayed pretty much alive. Getting music on them, that's a whole different equation now.
Pete, what are you wearing?
I am wearing your favorite watch.
Oh, oh dear. Good. It's in witness protection. That's where it deserves.
There we go.
Okay.
The Swatch, Bon Pont by Swatch, 50 Fathoms Antarctic Edition. And I'm really loving it. I'm putting together the notes for a critique on it. And what I would say is if you accept it to Swatch, you'll enjoy it. If you want it to be an Orient or a Seiko, you won't.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to. Most criticisms seem to be, I wish someone else had made this watch.
Interesting. I've not heard that one, but interesting.
No. They don't say those words, but what they criticize are the things that are inherent in being a Swatch.
Yeah.
For Swatch to make the watch they wanted, it couldn't be a Swatch.
Yeah.
Interesting point. Yeah, Brit did a really good review on it. I quite enjoyed her.
No, Brit did an awful review on
it. Your favorite YouTuber let you down.
No. She lets me down all the time, but she says interesting things.
It's bioceramic, Dave, not plastic.
In
fact,
if you watch it was her review. It really gave me the idea that what people want is a Swatch not made by Swatch.
Okay. I thought she did a good job, and she's always welcome if you want to come on, Britt.
I'd love to have her on.
I love Britt.
Yeah.
Britt's a lunatic just to let it out there. She'll admit that as well.
You can tell by her
really?
sense of humor.
That's a secret?
It's no secret.
There's enough evidence on why. There's enough evidence to say that's no secret, certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe for another show, but I mean, I really like Russell from the Mad Watch Collector, but his new watch I don't think is quite so mad as I would expect his first watch to be.
Field watch, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm getting dangerously Nico Leonard vibes from Russell in that he says remarkably conservative things, but just yells it at the screen. And so we think he's the Mad Watch collector, but his choices, his tastes are straight down the middle, conservative choices.
Well, Russell, you're always welcome on if you want. If we want to argue this point, before I ruin all my future collabs, we'll move on quickly.
He's also got he's got some of the best editing. He got some of the best editing in the watch game. I love watching his videos. Really
the time
fast
that
paced.
it must take him is wild, isn't it? That time that it must take him to do some of those. I mean,
Mr. Pagani is one of my favorite guys in the whole watch world.
Mark, before we eliminate any other potential future collabs, what are you wearing?
Speedmaster Mark II Racing Dial Edition.
Love it.
Oh, nice.
I love that watch.
And
cool watch.
And I had this before they were popular and everybody thought they were cool. I've had this 8 or 9 years now, and their popularity is only post-COVID, really.
Yeah, I like that when it first came out. But Thomas, what are you wearing?
Seiko 5 GMT Mac and Orange.
Oh, nice. The Junior Johnson special, as it's known on the show.
The Johnson special. Yeah, my good friend Junior Johnson for Christmas.
Awesome.
He's in the chat, so respect Junior. Thank you.
I didn't see Junior. Oh, hey Junior. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Hello from Kentucky. Yep. Todd, what are you wearing?
I've got the Bulova Lunar Pilot on today.
Oh,
nice.
Chronographs. And what my favorite thing, and we'll talk. This is a little bit of foreshadowing, but I love how they were able to get a quartz chronograph that doesn't have a 24-hour subdial. It's fantastic.
Oh, nice. I'm going to cheat a little bit on mine, just for the sake of, because I bought a new watch. I was on a holiday last week, and I bought a watch from a brand that I don't like, which is Bremont, or as Mike Pearson would say, Bremont. But Bremont. So I'll show a little picture because somebody did do me a little cheeky deal on the holiday that I was on, and I promised I would show a photo of him. So this is Mohit from who very kindly sold me the Bremont, and I'll just do a little few pictures. Somebody's phone's going off. Whose phone is that?
It's gotta be Mark's.
Oh, let me.
It's Brit. He's calling to complain. and Russell are coming to get us.
Yeah. So let me just I'll just show you. So this is it. This is the new Bremont GMT. Lovely. But I've got another wristwatch check from somebody who I met also on holiday. So a big shout out to Paul, who I met on holiday, who had a Deep Sea Rolex Deep Sea with apparently the back of it is where's the back of it? The back of it is titanium. Apparently I didn't realize that on the back of the Deep Sea, but this was awesome. He actually bought this in Paris, walked straight into an AD and bought it. Well, told them what he wanted, and they said, "Oh, actually, we have got one." So he bought it, which was actually pretty cool. So yeah, so shout out to Paul, shout out to Mohit. Nice to meet you last week. There we go.
So you say the Bremonts are not really loved. Well, why do you think that? What's your opinions on that?
This is a whole video in itself.
Yeah.
I never warmed to Bremont as a brand. I'll just say that. But after seeing, I mean, I'd seen them in person before, sure, but I think these new designs, perhaps the new direction, the new leadership's going in, these more wearable. I mean, even though this Supermarine was like one of their original.
You need to wait for the video. Basically, there's a video coming out, guys, for that one. So
there is, yeah. So for the sake of the video, I will say that I bought a watch from a brand I hate. because that's the clickbait title. But really, it's like, oh, I hadn't really thought of buying a Bremont before, but when I saw one in person, I quite liked it, so I bought it. Which doesn't really, it's not going to play well with the YouTube algorithm. So if you see, yeah, I'm just appeasing it's my offering to the YouTube gods. I'll put hate in the title.
My most recent video, I paid homage to the gods of the algorithm, and it's gone insane. So I just in the title, I told everyone they were wrong, and they have no choice but then to watch the video. So it's now got 4 times as many views as any other video I've done in the last 6 months.
Yeah, it's wild, that, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be the guy that just besmirches the good name of Seiko, but I will do if I have to. So anyway, we've got quite a fun show. We're going to do a lot of new picks, new watch releases, and then, guys, as always, we'll keep those your picks firing up in the comments section here as well. But let's get ready to dive through these. So let me just pull it up. And then first up, I think, Pete, this is one of yours first, is it? This is in 103.
Yeah, so Zinn's had the 103, their pilot chronograph for ages. It's a staple of their design. They've also got the 104, which is very similar to this. But with here, they've gone, Zinn don't do a lot of retro stuff. They just tend to do contemporary. This is contemporary industrial. This is very much a historic kind of throwback, not all the way back to the 50s and early 60s. This is more a late 60s, early 70s kind of vibe, big chunky indices, the kind of casino roulette motif on the subdials. I really quite like it. I think it's a nice little kind of contemporary spin, taking the cues from the old stuff but not replicating it. It's way too fat given that it's a manual wind Solita movement. It's like 14.8 millimeters. It just has no business being that thick. Doesn't have screw down pushes, so that's great. That's a huge win. And I like the 936 layout as opposed to the normal 1293, 1296 that they do. And there's no day date, so that's a massive improvement as well. So I think this is a great watch from Zinn. I think it's a clever little move, a little bit of salt and pepper on their contemporary industrial steak. That's my take.
That side shot, it says, you said 14.8, but my goodness, it looks like 2 millimeters just of the sapphire. Not really that thick.
And I believe it's an acrylic
thick
sapphire as well, but it is thick. Did I get those numbers right, Dave? Is it 14.8?
Yeah, it's in that region. I mean, I guess what they've done here is ultimately that watch could have been thinner for sure, but they'll have utilised the same cases as come in the automatic version. So they've just basically probably put a spacer in it, or effectively there's a lot of empty space behind that case back. But I guess that plays to the narrative of keeping the price where they want to do it, because I don't think they'll sell enough hand wind variants to justify doing a new case, to be honest.
And it also it also can be tricky getting a watch like that to sit nicely. That having that slightly dished case back actually does help sit on the wrist. And if they'd just removed it and gone flatter, then as Dave said, you're kind of in for a complete case redesign. And I can kind of see why they've done it.
Yeah, and the thickness of this, if we think 14.8 is thick, we've got a watch that's going to be very much hold my beer later, I think, as a pick.
I mean, again, the thing is, a lot of people say, oh, why don't you just put a different case back on it or things like that? But actually, you'll be amazed, even just by putting a thinner case back on it, it completely and utterly screws with the overall dimensions of the thing and the kind of general look and aesthetic of it. And if you look that side on picture, you'll notice the lugs, the bottom of the lugs come down to almost in line with the bottom of where the case back sits. So if you end up putting a thinner case back on it, you'll probably find the lugs end up digging into your wrist.
Yeah, I really like the Zinn 103 Classic 12H they brought out. I think that's a good one.
It's a good looking watch.
Zinn have got some absolute bangers on the range. And when they do a little special edition, to be honest, they're usually really good. You have to kind of put aside it sounds really silly. You have to put aside refinement with Sinn, and I don't mean that in terms of the quality of its manufacture or anything else. They just don't pretend to be much else than tool watches, and they're not playing a game of being the thinnest or the best fitting or the prettiest looking. They just make really utilitarian watches, and there's very few of them that I actually dislike, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah, great first pick, Pete. Let's go back to this first one. Dave, this is one of yours.
Oh,
Is the
right.
Zebra. This is,
Wow,
I mean,
saw a picture that I knew it was a Dave watch.
yeah, I mean, to be fair, this is a one-off. This is a piece unique that has been done really as a way of Chaikin showing his new micro rotor movement. So pretty much up to this point, in terms of the movements used in the Rismon series, whether that's the Jokers or the multitude of other ones, it's either been an ETA base or it's been a voucher base or a Vaucher base, where he typically builds the modules and mounts them on top of a movement that pre-exists essentially. But this is his first fully in-house micro rotor caliber that he is going to utilize for these Rismon series watches, and he's done the Zebra just as a kind of like a statement piece, I guess, to get it some visibility. And this, for me, I wouldn't go as far as to say this is the best of what Chaikin does, but one thing is he can absolutely get away with doing just utterly ludicrous looking kind of watches and styles, and do it in a way that doesn't become kid-like or toy-like, in my opinion. You know, for sure, this is far from going to be in the wheelhouse of the vast majority of people, but it's pretty funky. It's really well made, and there's just so many little details and such like in it, even down to, you know, the top set of lugs being the kind of ears of the Zebra in here. You've got the calendar complication in the nostrils, you've got the hours and the minutes in the eyes. I just think it's it's such a cool piece. It's just been so well done, even down to the daft little things like the tuft on the strap. You know, it's honestly just such a cool piece.
Yeah, that tuft, even though it's probably the cheapest component on the entire watch, it brings the whole thing together for me. Brings the whole design together.
Yeah,
Agreed.
it's just, you know, when you actually see one, if you ever get the chance to see one in real life, whether it's this or whether it's, you know, the Joker or whatever, if you look at a lot of the detail, even just down to the guilloche on the dials and stuff like that, you know, they are so nicely put together and so nicely manufactured and made. But yeah, again, the aesthetics going to appeal to a tiny minority for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's just a spectacular feat of engineering, isn't it? That's really cool.
Yeah.
Mark, welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah, let me
Family stuff got to be done.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. We didn't get to comment on the Zebra watch. No, we moved on.
Well, you know Dave's going to pick a Chaikin, and that is an absolute stunner.
yeah.
Seeing them in real life, they're much bolder in real life than they are in any image. So yeah, it's always a good pick. Whether you like the aesthetic or not, they're always a great pick.
Oh yeah,
They're amazing watches. Yeah.
Cool. Next one, I believe, Todd, this is your pick, Frederic Constant.
Yeah, this is I've never had one of these, and I've never even seen one in the wild. But there's this brand. I like a dress watch, and everything they've been making the last couple of years, I'm like, man, they're beautiful watches. And this one, it kind of hits on all cylinders for me with the complications in it, the rotor, and like just everything. It's a beautiful watch. I would love to see one of these in person. I love the big date.
Yep.
Beautiful watch.
I'll tell you. Sorry, on you go, Pete.
My first luxury inverted commas watch was a Frederic Constant. Frederic Constant is responsible for better or worse my involvement in the watch hobby. And I think they are massively underrated.
Mm-hmm.
I think
I do too.
I think there is no better example of where the watch brand is getting in the way of the watchmaker. they're a far better watch maker than they are a watch brand.
I think a lot of that though is
still. Go ahead, Dave.
When you go, Todd. No, I was going to say, Todd, I think a lot of that is down to actually, I think, perceived brand snobbery by the market more even than the brand. They make a really good quality product at, compared to their peers and contemporaries, a extremely good value proposition. Now, take that as you may, watches, at the end of the day, these are brands. Of course, they've got a margin in them, but relative to others, I think for what you get, and considering, that yes, at their mainstay of their range, they use a lot of off-the-shelf kind of Sellita-based movements, but they also have a pretty decent quality in-house caliber division as well. I will comment that most of their in-house calibers are punchy in terms of size. That's not always to the benefit of them, but they also are pretty pushy when it comes to technology as well. I think they're a highly underrated brand on a multitude of fronts, to be honest with you.
When I look at them, every time I see them, I see a watch that looks like a high horology piece that is well below the price point of watches that have the similar look and vibe. Again, I've never handled one. You guys have more experience than me, but I think they're just beautiful watches.
Yeah, I don't think the ADs know how to sell these. I mean, I've been into a couple where they've got Frédéric Constant in the store, and they don't really. I mean, one guy was like, "Oh, I'm a watch expert," and he was sat in front. He says, "I wear a Frédéric Constant." I said, "Oh, the part of Citizen Group." He's like, "No, they're not. They're not." So, and I was like, "They are," but I don't think they know the individual models. The ADs that I've been into, I don't think they.
I think it suffers a lot in the marketplace, especially with retailers from brand positioning. Most retailers treat them as very much a low-end entry point to mechanical watches, rather than giving them a degree of credence on they actually are a very high value proposition to what they actually offer. I mean, there's a lot of brands out there that will use Sellita movements, etc., at considerably higher price points than these that aren't, I would argue, particularly better in terms of being a watch. Maybe do they have a better perception as a brand? Sure, you could argue that, but it's not actually a better watch in any real meaningful way. And I think that's where they suffer, especially outside Europe. These in Europe, in mainland Europe, actually, they get probably more credence than they do certainly in the UK, the US markets, etc. And also, I think in some of the Asian markets, they do not too bad as well. In the Asian markets where Longines are quite strong, this brand is also pretty strong as well.
Yeah, and what Bill K says here: too many gold-plated models hurts their perceived quality.
You could argue that. I guess there's most brands moved away from gold watches. Fair, it was all stainless steel, and if it was gold, it was gold. So, but I think what folk forget is, for Joe Average, there's a lot of people out there who like the aesthetic of a gold watch, but ain't ever going to be spending 5 figures on an actual gold watch. And what's your answer after that? It's a gold-plated watch. And yes, there's a lot of really cheap fashion watches that play that whole gold-plated narrative and look, but they are, broadly speaking, not all of them, but they're mostly junk, and their plating is poor quality, and it does rub off, mark off, flake off, etc. I would say that's not the case with Frédéric Constant. What they do pretty well. And yeah, I'm not a fan, to be honest, of that gold-plated aesthetic. I'm not even massively a fan of gold watches, full stop. But there's a big market for that out there of people who do like that. So I can see why they do it, to be honest with you. And they're not the only one either.
Yeah. And gold plating is infinitely preferable to like gold DLC or gold PVD. Those which are very common and never quite capture it correctly. If I was, at the end of the day, when you plate gold on something, what you are seeing is actual gold, not something pretending to be gold. Whereas with gold PVD, what you've got is something pretending to be gold. And in the hand, it is you can easily tell the difference.
Unless you actually use gold as part of your PVD, it can
unless you actually use,
but it won't look like gold.
It won't look like gold. And so
usually it's that kind of satinized finish.
Yeah. So I'd say if you're looking for exactly to Dave's point. If you're looking for a gold watch, but you're not in the market of spending 20 grand plus on it, then gold plating is definitely the way to go.
Do you think gold PVD is less scratchable than gold plating itself?
Don't care. Don't know. Don't care. It looks horrible even when it's perfect.
So an example of gold PVD, would that be the Tissot PRX? Is that a gold PVD?
Yeah. Well, it's like if you look at most of the Seikos, for example, especially in the kind of Seiko 5 level, and these kind of watches that have that gold look to them as well, you usually see it's a slightly matte, slightly satinized type finish to it. That's an aesthetic gold plating coat, or a gold colored plating coating that they put on it, as opposed to a proper actual gold coating, which is a much more traditional way. You get back to the 40s, 50s, 60s, there was a lot of plated watches that were plated in real gold, but that was more common probably than actually solid gold watches.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great point. Well, speaking of gold, but actual gold, Thomas, I believe this is your pick, Piaget.
Yeah, first released in 1979 and originally a quartz watch, I believe. This is an impressive piece of jewelry. I really like it, and very elegant bracelet on it. The aesthetics very aesthetically nice, and the 1980s aesthetic, very bold. The price point of $73,000. It's up against the Vacheron 222, which I actually prefer. I hate the normal Piaget Polo S line with its circling square sort of dial. And excuse me. I think that this is a great way for Piaget to celebrate their 150th anniversary. It's using the ultra thin 1200 PI caliber with a 2.35 thick movement, which has a lovely micro rotor. I'm a big fan of micro rotors, and the bracelet reminds me of the Omega Constellation bracelet, but better done. It's
much better done.
Much better done, yeah.
Well, for 73,000, it had be better done.
Yeah. I like the way that this sort of bracelet pattern goes onto the dial as well. It's sort of like it's sort of the way it's all fitted together. It's a really nice bit of jewelry, basically. It's
a stunning watch, and I've been lucky enough to handle one. It is outrageously good, and I agree with you, Thomas. I prefer the Vacheron aesthetically. This is not that the Vacheron is badly made by any stretch. This, especially the bracelet, is much, much better made than the Vacheron. Every Piaget in precious metal I've ever had the luck to handle, it's the only time, I don't even know how to describe it, for something that is individual links that all move. Every one of them that I've ever handled from Piaget, it feels like it's one piece, but it's articulated. It doesn't feel like it's a combination of parts put together. It feels weirdly unibody without being that. They're just so well made, and Piaget have a huge heritage in the kind of jewelry market. They've got to do a lot of high jewelry watches and jewelry. One thing those guys know how to do is how to work precious metal, and they do put most watch brands to shame when it comes to how they do that. Them, along with brands like Cartier, pretty damn good at it has to be said as well. Bulgari are pretty good at it. There's a few of them out there, but this one is pretty special.
I think when jewelry brands that are also watch brands manage to fuse both sides of that together and give you a really nice balance of jewelry and watch, it just works brilliantly. And I think Piaget, all the ones we just mentioned, Piaget, Bulgari, Cartier, and probably I'll throw Czapek in there, when they do their jewelry / watch combinations, just do it better than straight up watch companies.
Every time.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the lens you've got to look at this polo through. This is not trying to be. It's actually not even trying to sell to the same person that wants to buy a 222. Or if it's selling to the same person, it's selling to that person on a different day when they're trying to do something really different. So you might buy the 222 and wear that to the basketball. And then when you get home, you take the 222 off, you put this on, and then you go out for dinner.
Yeah.
It makes sense
great point.
logically too. I mean, as a jewelry company, they're going to be thinking bracelet just as strong as the watch head. It will be just as important to them whereas, you know, a watch guy, the watchmaker's making a watch and they're like, do we have a bracelet that fits that? You know, can we just pop one in most of the time? Whereas they're going to be thinking this is just as important as the watch.
Yeah, I mean, I remember looking at, I can't even remember the model from Piaget, but it was one that they released as I think it was a piece unique actually. They released it at Watches and Wonders last year, and it had a platinum, it was either white gold or platinum bracelet, and you couldn't tell where each of the links joined each other because all of the decoration on the bracelet had been done after the bracelet had been put together, so that all of the flows of the hand carvings moved across the links. It's just... It's something to behold when you actually, if you're ever lucky enough to get a hold in one, you just go, that's handmade skill. That's not a machine that's boshing out parts in gold.
Yeah.
Great point. Okay, next up, Mark, one of yours, the constellation with the meteorite dial.
No, I was doing the planet oceans, but we'll do the constellations if you like.
Sorry. Was this? Did we swap picks? Well, I tell you what. Let's go with that planet ocean then, because I made a little snigger before when you were off that the Sinn being 14 mil thick there was going to be another watch that would say
amateurs only 14 mil thick. Oh, exactly. You know, if you're going to do a chronograph, and to be honest, I can't remember how thick these guys are, but they're 44.5 millimeter in diameter.
We have got a thickness of 19 millimeters.
I just wish I could wear that thing.
That's a big boy.
The chronographs are utterly over the top. All the Planet Ocean chronographs are utterly over the top.
Yeah.
I love them, but I can't wear them. They wear me. The non-chronograph ones, I think, are much better. But I have to say, I think Omega do the nicest green around. That sort of subtle green that they have here is such a good green. And, you know, you have the benefit of the two displays on one subdial that are so small you can't read either of them, even on a watch that size. These are a wonderful oddity. I don't know how many Omega sell, but I'm so glad they make them and just don't care about the zeitgeist. This is what you're getting. We'll expand. We'll make the choices a little less insane than the grays and the oranges or the ceramic black one. And this is a normal Planet Ocean chronograph. And if you can't get over it, if you can't get over the size, I just say, you know, I'd love one, but I can't wear them. The beige is
they're weirdly remarkably wearable. They're more wearable than you think, and I think one thing that Omega are actually pretty good at. There is a couple I would argue that most folk would say are probably more wearable than this, but I actually would argue are less. Like the World Timer is just pushed beyond wearable.
Yep.
These, when you combine the kind of the height of them with the width of them, and the fact that the strap is so tight into the lug and it drops away almost immediately at the end of the lug onto the wrist. I've got like an older black stainless steel. Is it stainless steel? Yeah, I think it's stainless steel. The orange and black bezel one with the rubber insert.
Yep.
And it, don't get me wrong, it isn't sliding under a dress shirt anytime soon. But like I've got many a watch that's not as big as this by numbers that actually is much less comfortable and wearable. These are more wearable than you would give them credit for.
Strangely enough, they have the ceramic, and you can see it there. You know, one row below, that deep black ceramic one that's next to the ETA. There you go. Oh, that one I can actually wear. And and is it that I shouldn't be able to wear it, but I can. But the ETNZ, which is next to it, looks ridiculous on me, and it's exactly the same size.
Yeah.
So it's very colorway theme consistent. Sort of, you've got all the weenies at Fratello who are who are saying 38 mil is great and buying 44 mils. Who would hate it? But I love these things, but you don't see them very often. But I think they're great.
Yeah, I was going to say the ETNZ regatta timer is that's 19 thick, and that's chunky.
They're all the same size. It depends on the design, the colorway. So the gray and the orange ones. It's borderline. It's borderline because it's just about as broad as my wrist is. But if you've got the right colorway, you can make them comfortable. They're remarkably wearable. But if you've got a wrist that's 0.5 millimeter too small widthwise, I think they're going to be uncomfortable. I can carry off just the lug to lug, and I don't care about the height, but the design, the colorway that you have sets the tone of the watch and how it wears on you much more than its physical dimensions suggest.
Yeah, I think
if you've got a 6-inch wrist, you're not wearing it. It won't be comfortable.
I got a feeling Omega has a very, very specific, possibly down to the name and email address, list of people that this is going to suit. I mean, people made a bit of a song and dance about the fact there was no PR that came out with this. There was no press release that came out with this. I suspect everyone who knew it was, everyone who was likely to buy it probably knew it was coming out.
I do wonder if I'm not on that list somewhere. I think my boutique knows me too well, but I might surprise them.
Strange thing is, Omega sell a lot more Planet Oceans than most folk would believe. It's a considerably more popular model in the Omega range.
Certainly the three hand, yes,
and the Chrono.
Yeah, I think like the Constellation, which we're going to talk about later, they are not the watches that exist within the social media using watch community.
Correct. You're absolutely right there.
They are massive sellers outside.
Correct. Yeah. You see a lot of them in the street. You see a lot of, just folk wearing them. And they're probably not watch people. It's probably their one or two. They might have a dress watch and a other watch. And you see a lot of them floating about the streets if you just keep your eyes open. It's strange how many you do see.
And if Sam can show the green 3-hand.
Oh, I clicked off it now. Hang on. Let me. I got a bit overexcited. So the green 3-hand. Let's have a look.
There you go. You just
Oh, here we go.
Good looking watch.
That's a wonderful looking thing.
Mm.
And for what you get, I know $7,000 is a lot of money, but I rather think that that's worth every penny.
Yeah, great pick.
And even that beige, it's an unusual colorway, but I think that one should stay on the original, on the strap they're showing it. But the green, you could put it on a Planet Ocean bracelet and it would still look great.
Why is the beige more expensive? Does anybody know? It's $400 more expensive in the 3-hand and like $500 more on the Chrono.
It could be something to do with the bezel. That's typically what sets them apart.
It could be maybe a ceramic bezel versus an aluminium bezel or something like that. There'll be something small and silly.
Moonshine copper.
And it's poo brown.
Awesome. Okay, well, next up. I'm gonna do one of mine, which is I love this. This is a G-Shock, and I absolutely love it. It's
winning at life.
It is. I wish if I had. I don't know. It's still $3,000. I get that, but the colorway, the John Player Special Gold and Black, the rubber strap, which I think it's going to be awesome, and also
Do
the
it, Sam.
clasp on
Do
here.
it.
Do it,
Do
Sam.
it, Sam.
I
Do
love
it.
Yeah,
it.
do it, Sam.
Absolutely
Sell
love
a
it.
Grand Seiko and buy a Casio. Make that video.
Sell everything you've got,
Sell
Sam, and do
everything
it.
and buy
You
the
won't regret
Casio.
it.
Yeah, tell you what, all my picks are Casios tonight. So just a little spoiler alert there. They're all
Get
Casio.
rid of that useless Rolex and get that on your wrist. That's a proper
Absolutely.
watch.
That's that, and then make the video. I sold my Rolex for a Casio.
Yeah. Well,
Sean,
I've got
Sean in the comments gets it. Sean gets it. If you've never handled an
Yep.
MR-G, get one in
Yeah.
your hands, and suddenly it's worth every penny.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I've seen the all metal one, but I've got another 3 weeks of telling everyone about how Braymont's the greatest brand before I sell this one. So maybe we'll see how we go.
To buy an MR-G, love it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, actually, if you like that, let me see if I can grab it, Sam, because I was that fool. I was that idiot that actually did buy an MR-G. Is that the right way around? That's the right way around. And it's in the same colorway.
Oh
the
yeah, there we go.
Copper and gold.
Oh,
And honestly,
beautiful.
I wear this watch all the time, and it is ludicrously expensive for a G-Shock. But when you start messing about, it's a kind of it's full titanium. They wear well. They are so damn good. And these squares, I've played with the ones on the titanium bracelet that they do for it. Oh, no, man, I so want it. I so want it.
Yeah, I love this. I love it. But anyway, I'm gonna have to let's click off it.
So Sam, is the movement serviceable on that $3,500 watch, or is it you just throw it away?
New battery, perfect.
Yeah, you just buy the $50 You just buy the $50 G-Shock, and it's like a drop-in replacement. You can buy.
So you got a disposable $3,000 watch.
You basically buy 6 Ben Claymore G-Shocks as a backups for spares or repairs. No,
and that would be the best use for any of those Ben Clymer watches.
Exactly. No, this has
the one thing I will give G-Shock is they support their digital watches for infinitely longer than some mechanical watch brands support their mechanical watches. Let me put it like that. And actually, I've had one recently that I sent back that I think was 22 years old, and it was a very original solar one, and the movement was gubbed, and they put a complete new movement in it, serviced it, and sent it back for this princely sum of £112.
Yeah, and that they did a thing, didn't they? About they would refurbish you one, even if it was back to the 80s, where they would replace the bezel and the band on there for you as well. Yeah, was that
an ongoing thing? Is that still going, or is that a little window?
No, they still do it. Still do it.
They made a song and dance about it, but you're right, Pete. It went quiet, didn't it? I think. But that'd be cool. Excellent. Okay, let's click off that before. Oh, Thomas gifted 5 memberships. Thank you for that. There you are. Little gift for everyone. And thank you everyone who's a member as well. Thank you. If you want to become a member, there's some exclusive content already on there. Treat yourself for the princely sum of $3 a month. You can get some behind the scenes.
$3. What do you think? What do you think us British people? We don't think we're made of money. $3. Better not be saying that to Pete. $3 Australian. $3 is about 4 years' salary.
That's half a NATO strap.
Well,
it's all a NATO strap's worth for a start.
I'll send you a NATO strap, Pete. If you anyway. So next up, I'm doing these out of order. Let me do the constellation. Pete, was that your pick that I missed? Let's do the constellation.
I'm happy to talk about it.
Nice watch.
And in a way, it would have been nice to have been right next to the Polo, because I think what you're seeing here is people not drawing from the same time period. They're sort of reaching back to sort of these 70s aesthetics. Polo's done it on a very different level and a very different price range and whatever. But I when I see these watches, I get the same vibe as the Polo. This side of, slightly dirty retro 70s vibe, and I like them. I think they do it really well. I think it's that vibe, but brought forward to 2024 and made with with modern standards, modern tolerances, modern materials. So
and they're very, very nice watches to handle.
Yeah,
Agree.
You can see the quality, you can see
That's
the
right.
care that goes into them.
And one of the things again,
wait. Just a second though, just for a point of order. It was about a week or so ago. I pointed out I had a friend who sent me a watch. It was this watch, and I posted it in the WhatsApp group, and Mark absolutely roasted this watch.
I might have said that I might have said that because it was a two-tone gold one. It might have been me that said this is the watch of a man that sold you shares in Enron.
Because we're just
you do see,
that's exactly right. It was.
I loathe the two-tone and the older two-tone ones, but the modern ones are much nicer.
Yeah, these newer iterations, which I think are what now 18, 24 months old, I think, since they first kind of saw the light of day. I'm not a fan of that, to be fair, but then I'm just not a fan of that aesthetic, full stop. But the stainless steel ones, I actually quite like them. I think these are... This is what I would call a dress watch. I know it's not really a dress watch. That's my kind of idea of a dress watch.
Of the new releases, I think the blue would be my favorite.
I think there's also, if you are going back in time, and it's funny, you mentioned the John Player special on the Mr. G and how much you like it. I hate that colorway. John Player special colorway for me reminds me. I use the phrase slightly dirty 70s vibe. You know, a bit like you were saying the guy who sold you shares in Enron. I think the John Player special and two-tone takes it too far. That's when I step out of kind of cool 70s and I'm now in bad hair, hairspray, cigarette-stained teeth.
You're in the middle of the British bin strike and the miners' strikes of the 1970s.
Rolling power cuts,
so this is like, overflowing ashtrays and cars
gold
with
medallion,
all that horrible stuff. When it all just went too far.
Cars with beige vinyl roofs or brown vinyl roofs.
Don't you dare knock that. Don't you dare.
I would love a Mark 1 Escort with a beige roof.
Vinyl roofs. And
it just didn't work as well
We're now
on the
moving
Morris
into
Marina,
a very
trust
different
me.
territory. Move on before we all get overexcited.
This is shag pile carpet.
Oh, man.
Purple shag pile carpet.
Sunken living room.
Shag pile floor mats in your Fiesta with a vinyl roof. Now we're talking.
Dirty retro 70s, wasn't that the tagline of Boogie Nights, the film, I think?
Well, that's exactly. That's a Boogie Nights watch in two-tone and knock off porn.
Let's
that's what everybody, to be fair, that's what everybody said about the watch before, so we're back on track.
We're back around to I've got a great business opportunity in Enron. Let's move quickly on to Thomas. Is this you?
Yeah, now I'm a fan of different time telling techniques, and this caught my eye. And after seeing your review of the Atoac Tarantula Satellite Wandering Hours watch, I was expecting something nice, exciting from this, but it's created in collaboration with Olivier Maury, who started at Richard Mille making their early models and then moved to Solita and was responsible for Yema's first in-house movement. And but I felt let down by this. It's basically a regulator-style minute hand with a weird arrow-shaped tower hand that rotates inside a triangle with hour markers. And they say that the asymmetrical reading of time is a world premiere that promises to captivate and inspire anyone who seeks a new and unique way of reading time. And I'm not convinced, I'm afraid.
So this feeling a little bit sick now. Feeling a little bit sick.
This move, does it, Thomas?
That's a 1970s Hublot acid trip.
Yeah, it's the white hand is the minute hand. White hand is minute hand, and then you've got this sort of copper-colored arrow inside that rotates as well. But I thought something magical was going to happen, like the triangle was going to rotate or something. And
that's like when you ask a half-learned AI to design a watch for MB&F.
Yeah, it's just not happening. I'm not convinced by it at all. No. I thought when I first saw the picture, I thought, "Ooh, this looks exciting," but I'd rather have that Atawak Cobra that you, Tarantula, that you
you know.
What's the price on this?
£2,500.
Oh yeah,
three and a bit.
Yeah, nah.
And it's modified.
I mean, I'm a fan of kind of wacky out there designs that folk just decide to pull out the barrel, but I'd rather they do something a little bit properly left field as opposed to trying to kind of homage or pull ideas from something else. This is too many things smashed together that just doesn't work.
Exactly, Dave. Yeah,
cool. Now for pick. Then Dave, we've got you next. This is the U50.
We're back on Zinn again. I mean, that was just by fluke that two of them come up. None of them come up for ages, and then suddenly they come up. This came up because one of my, I'm going to use a word that doesn't exist, one of my favoritist ever watches, including of any brand, and actually it's from Zinn, is the UX, which is a watch that in so many ways just is ridiculous. It's a tegumented steel case in their the bigger platform. I think it's like 43 mil, maybe something like that, with the quartz movement, and it's the full oil-filled watch. It's utterly ludicrous. The watch is rated to 5,000 meters depth. The case is rated to 10,000 meters depth, and I believe it's probably provable as well. It is pretty expensive for a quartz watch, but it's just damn cool. It's just one of those things that the weird things like no parallax, you can literally look at it, literally like that, and it looks like someone's inkjet printed the hands onto the face of the watch. It's just so damn cool for about, I think they're about 2,500 in the UK. The only thing about them is it's a big boy. These are the U50 variants. So the U50 was brought out a good few years ago as the little brother in terms of size to the U1 range, which is what the UX is based off of. And finally, they have done a hydro version of the U50s, which have the quartz movement, the full oil filled, 3 different kind of variations. You've got the full tegumented steel. You've got the tegumented steel with the black coating on it. And then you've got the kind of hybrid one, which is the tegumented silver case with the black DLC bezel on it as well. These are just cool tool watches that I just think are so ludicrous, so unneeded, but at the same time, just make what collecting watches good fun.
Yeah, I love the look of these. So, I mean, how do you have to send it back to Zinn to get it refilled, or is there like a kit with like the mineral oil or whatever it is?
So I think it's no. I think it's a 60-month. I think they guarantee a 60-month battery life, which is pretty decent when you think about it. That's a fair chunk of time. And it has to go back to either, in fact, I think they actually all still go back to Zinn in Germany. I don't even think their service partners can do them, but it's quite clever the way it works. It's got like when you open the case back, because I've seen one taken apart, it's got like a kind of rubber diaphragm, because what these don't have, like many oil-filled watches, is bubbles. There is no little bubble floating about of it. You wouldn't know there was oil in it if someone didn't tell you, unless you literally opened it and suddenly discovered you were covered in oil. And they've got this kind of diaphragm that when they put the case back on it, it kind of suctions on the diaphragm and pulls it so that there's zero air in it. They're just typical German engineering. They've really thought this through about how to do it. It's a really cool piece. Ludicrous, completely unneeded, like most watches are, to be honest, but at the same time, it's just pretty funky.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Okay, next up is we've really gone long on this one. Hopefully, if anything wants to drop, just let me know. Todd, your Lunar Pilot Meteorite, another Meteorite dial.
Another Meteorite, and I've come to grips with the fact that Omega has priced me out of Speedmaster and the modern world. Like, that is just not something that's going to be responsible. A responsible Todd can't buy. But I do love these Bulova Lunar Pilots, and this design, it gets you right in that area of like, man, that is a great looking watch with a little bit of heritage and got all the vibes of what is a great Speedmaster. I like this watch a lot.
Yeah,
agree.
Yeah, lovely.
Agreed.
I think these are really underrated, to be honest, you know, and I think
They
Bulova
really
as
are.
a brand, I think Bulova as a brand is in a similar but slightly different kind of zone to the likes of Frederic Constant we were talking about earlier. They've got a lot of fashion-ish watches, but they
Yes.
also do a really cool range of decent, affordable, accessible tool type watches. Whether it's this or whether it's the devil divers that they do, they've got some actually really funky, cool watches at typically what, 700 to £1,500, that kind of neck of the woods. I think a lot of them in the UK are, and I think there's a lot of ingrained snobbery about, oh, it's Bulova, isn't it? It's like a catalog watch. It's a high street watch.
The Jetstar.
It's funny because
nice one.
it wasn't that long
Agree.
ago that was considered a very nice, high-end watch. Like getting a Bulova was like, ooh. I mean, I remember seeing like an old TV show. I was like, ooh, it's a Bulova. You know, like people were.
I mean, they were.
Yeah.
If you go back to, you know, the tuning fork era where you had the kind of Bulova Accutrons, they were cutting edge in terms of like technologies back in that day. And okay, they placed their money on the tuning fork rather than quartz, which is kind of a bit like Sony with Betamax versus VHS.
Betamax.
You know, eventually you have to kind of like give up. And arguably, you know, like Sony, the Betamax was actually the better platform. All the pros took it up. It was better than VHS, but it just didn't catch on, and tuning fork was a little bit the same. Okay, you can argue quartz probably was the better solution that won in that case, but the Devil Diver is a banging little watch, and they did the reissue, the kind of heritage reissue of it a couple of years ago in the original size with a pretty, I say premium, but probably premium for Bulova. I think it was using a proper decent high grade elaborate ETA movement in it as well and stuff. They do some cool watches. I really have got a lot of time for them.
Mm-hmm.
I think someone said, what was it, the Jetstar? Cool watch that as well.
Yeah.
It's
I like
interesting to compare, say, Bulova to Seiko, because in many ways they exist in many of the same sorts of spaces. And Seiko gets a free pass on selling an absolute ton of cheap ass catalog watch, Cartier and other knockoffs. You know, they're awful. Some of that stuff is just awful. It's an embarrassment. But we kind of just let it slide. Whereas for whatever reason, Bulova doesn't get that free pass.
But you see, I think this is the bigger picture of that is where Seiko have got it so right is from quite literally $100 or less to, you know, Credor at pushing £1 million for the most premium pieces they do. It all falls under Seiko, basically. Other than Credor. I mean, even Credor, the movement still says Seiko on them. You know, it says Seiko Time Core. So they've kept it all in house. I think this is where the Citizen have the big problem. You've got Citizen Group, you've got Citizen, you've got Bulova, you've got Frederic Constant, you've got all of these brands that are all disparate, doing totally different things, crossing over with each other, no alignment at all, no story, no branding of any outside of their own individual branding, and it's just confused. And I think that's where it just they need to get a grip of it.
Yeah, I think Citizen is the worst way of managing a group. It's of all that would be an interesting like video to do one day. Pick which group manages its assets the best. And I think
the top five, bottom five video. I can see you planning it now, Pete.
Yeah, I think Citizen is
how many different CEOs would you like within one watch group? I think we'll go for 27 today.
Yeah. Great point. Okay, well, next one is one of my picks, and this pick contains product promotion because Casio did send me one of these in, but I've been wearing the last week on my holiday by the sea, on the sea.
Nice.
This new range band, and it's a beast. It is massive. Oh, there you go. Look, even the photo zoomed in that high, but it's actually really cool. It's a smart watch, so it has a heart rate sensor on it, has GPS built into it. I'm wearing it all week. I'm going to do a review of it, but it's actually been quite a pleasure to wear, even though it is quite chunky. And the battery lasts for ages. I was using the GPS and stuff for mapping where I was going and everything. And I think this is initially when you see it, like it's visually massive. Look, it's powerful looking, but once you actually get it on with most G-Shocks, like to your point, Dave, the strap falls right down the side, like you were saying, on those Omegas.
What does that sell for these days, Sam?
Sorry?
What does it sell for, that one, these days?
I think 500 is what it says on the screen. Yeah.
So this is a much more affordable price point, because like I love the Rangeman. I love G-Shocks, but I love the Rangeman. And one of the best watches I think that they ever made, that they didn't last long, they discontinued it, was the original Rangeman, which is this one, that Rangeman.
Oh, hang on, let me get it full screen.
That one there.
Oh yeah.
Which was this one they did, which again is ludicrously large, rechargeable. But that thing was their first kind of like wrist computer. And they only made it, I think, for about 9 months. And it was, I think if I remember rightly, it was like about 1,200 quid or something. But it's got navigation and all sorts of nonsense in it. This looks really cool though. I like the look of this. The colour's pretty banging as well. And for 500 bucks, so it's going to be
yellow colour.
450. Looks amazing.
I suspect it looks best in that yellow.
The black version is definitely more of a subtle version. The yellow did slightly, on some of the high points. Yeah, did slightly, some of the.
Have they got a camouflage version?
No, not at the moment, but I'm sure I'm sure if it takes off, it probably will do. But I haven't charged it once. And I've had it I wore it entire week, and it's solar as well.
I was going to say it's probably because if it's got the solar in it, if it's anything like this one that I've got, that's got like a little clip-on charger similar to what that's got. I think I've used it once ever. I mean, I think literally when I got it, I plugged it in, I charged it, and I genuinely don't think I've ever used it since then. And even when I'm not wearing it, I mean, if I look at it now, I haven't worn this in months. And the little battery icon, you can probably see it there, is full.
Yeah.
So it just holds a charge. It holds a charge of its own volition as long as it's got daylight on it.
Which is different than that Square. The fitness Square I had to charge that quite a few times. The battery would just go dead on it. Whereas the
I think sometimes it's about the kind of if it's got a big face on it and it's got a big solar cell on it, I think they're pretty good. And the newer ones certainly are super efficient at the charging on them.
Yeah, awesome. I think I've got one last. Oh no, there is one last pick. This, there's two picks. Thomas, this is your Dior, but also Pete, you picked this one as well, didn't you? You both landed on this one.
I wanted to get Pete's opinion on this. Fashion brands have been breaking into the watch market for a few years now. Chanel, J12, Hermes, Gucci timepieces, Louis Vuitton, and Dior have got this one originally launched in 2004 but died away. And this chronograph looks quite interesting. It's 41 mil, DLC coated, date in red at 4 o'clock, which is a bit weird. I like the red reset button for the chronograph. Using an El Primero 400 movement, which I love my El Primero. They rebranded it the CD001 movement. It's from sister LVMH brand Zenith, so it's it's doing good. I just feel that you could get a nicer Zenith for a lot less money, really. I quite like the design, but it's I'm a bit too old to be buying into this fashion look. I feel.
I don't like the look of this. I don't. It's just all kind of. It's weird. One of the things that fashion, if you like, first brands bring is a really good sense of great looking watches. The Hermes 08, the Bulgaris, they're all really good looking watches. I don't think this is a great looking watch. The subdials look too small. They look all out of place. There's all this empty space.
What
the
the heck's
Dior's
going
is
on
kind of drifting in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
This
it looks like a
looks-
Ferrari design.
This to me looks like a design that Porsche design rejected.
Yeah.
It's not. Porsche design's even nicer. See, for me, this is a simple case of just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah,
Dior is a premium fashion brand for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah,
And they do certain things, you know, not my fashion style, but they do certain things really well. And I can appreciate some of the stuff they do. But this is just like, I'm not, you know, I love Hermes watches, and I think Hermes have moved into that category well. It's not that fashion brands can't move into this territory. I just think this is just, there's no need for it, especially within the greater group. I don't think anybody who buys high couture fashion from Dior would even consider buying a Dior watch. I think they would probably already have a reasonably developed palette for premium watches of another description rather than buying a Dior one. I just don't see why they would buy into Dior.
Yeah, I mean, Hermes, Gucci timepieces, and Louis Vuitton have all been GPHG nominated, haven't they? I mean,
and there's also
because-
with most of them, there's more of a heritage. There's no Dior heritage of any meaning of watches.
No,
It looks like a smartwatch. That's the thing. It looks like the dial design that you might see on a smartwatch.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it is. It reminds me of, what was the watch brand? They sponsored World Rally for a little while.
Edox.
Edox. Do you remember Edox used to do one with the red pusher button on it?
Yeah, the Edox Chrono Rally. That's exactly
That's it.
what this first reminded
Looks
me
like-
of. And
Yeah.
or you know those early, you know, the Formex, when they were a normal brand and weren't a micro brand, and
Yeah.
they were all into the X Games type stuff.
It's awful.
You end up with
It's
this
not-
sort
it's
of
not
look,
cool.
and
That's it.
yeah.
And you
They
know,
actually
I
do some more
guarantee you, I think that watch was a couple of grand, wasn't it, when it first came out? And
Yeah, something like that.
it's like, because I remember half toying with the idea, looking at it, it's a bit weird and a bit funky, but I guarantee that Dior ain't $2,000.
It's
That actually
not-
looks that actually looks better than the Dior.
$13,000 for the Dior.
So I don't have a
13 grand
problem
well
with
spent.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the idea of Dior saying, yeah, we can bring our fashion sensibilities to watches and blah, 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 like Hermes does. Great, fine. I just
they
don't
have-
think they've done it very well.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
have.
but do what Hermes does. Even Hermes doesn't have the audacity to try and charge 13 grand.
I know. Well, in fact, the H08's pretty good value, actually.
H08,
But-
I would argue, is one of the nicest releases. Full stop. It's definitely
Yeah.
in my top 20 watches of the last couple of years for sure.
Absolutely.
And the Hermes, the slimmed Hermes, is an absolute
Yeah.
banger of a watch for not a lot of money.
Yeah. No, it's a good pick. There's a great Apple TV show actually on Christian Dior. If anybody's watching, it's a dramatization. of his
Just
time
started,
during-
isn't it?
Yeah,
Is it about Chanel, Dior, and all of those guys just after the Second World War?
and Balenciaga, all those fashion
yeah.
designers in France during the German occupation.
So that's what we need. I think that'd be Dave's jam, a
Don't even
Balenciaga
go there.
watch.
Don't even go there. Don't do it.
Well, let me
Can
let
you
me
imagine
do.
asking AI if I just AI
Oh, man.
design me a Balenciaga watch?
Take a Balenciaga t-shirt and a pair of Balenciaga like daddy sneakers and make a watch out of them. Can you imagine?
That's right.
Jesus God.
Yeah.
Even no divine intervention could save you from that.
My final pick then, just to see this out. This was hot off the press, I think, 2 days ago. The new Casiotron. I don't know if anybody saw this one. $500 though, so it's limited to 4,000 pieces. It's on pre-order, but they basically recreated the Casiotron. I don't know if they've got a picture here. The Casiotron from, they haven't got a picture, from 1974. They've updated it with Bluetooth, so they've not gone like totally true to the original, and it's got 39 millimeters. But I'm quite glad that they've done this. A little nod to the anniversary, the 50th anniversary of the Casiotron. And my granddad wore a Casio, not this exact one, but I've still got it. So I've got an affinity for these old Casios. So I'm glad they're doing a nod to their past.
I agree, but I think they've over-egged the price.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm not saying it should be $100 or anything, but 500 I think is pushing it a little bit, because I have a horrible feeling it's not going to be $500 quality in terms of manufacture.
I also wonder with this, if
Like
in
them.
if in 3 months' time you can you can buy a mod kit that takes a module and makes it look like this, and it'll probably have a better bracelet.
This reminds me of Tissot. It reminds me of the Tissot that we don't like.
It's a little bit. I think it is better than that Tissot, but I see where you're coming from.
Yeah,
Thomas.
For me, if this said 350 quid, I could probably get on board with it. I do like the idea of it, and I did toy with it right up to the point where I saw the price, and I was like, nope.
I would, and this is an incredibly niche thing, but I suspect it's I have a feeling that in 10 years' time, this will not be a particularly niche idea. I would not have put Bluetooth in this. No. Mainly because, and this is, as I said, this is for me, half the places I work now, I'm not allowed to wear this watch. And when I am thinking of using this watch, then, and it's a little bit like that Rangeman that you were comparing before, it's vastly overpriced compared to the equivalent Garmin. I can get a Garmin Epix for half the price of that Rangeman. You're playing in a very different space when you're playing smartwatches. And so I look at this and go, I'll buy a Garmin Mark rather than this. What sets it apart is not being wireless, not having Bluetooth. That means I can take it anywhere. Whereas this is going to spend, if I wore this at work, it would spend half its time locked in a little box outside doors.
Yeah, it's funny.
This is also, I think for this, even just looking at it, and don't get me wrong, I'll reserve judgment till I get my hands on one to have a play with one. But I think this is going to be a classic modern Casio build quality. And this is the watch that I think if they'd done this right, personally, what I would have done is I would have got the guys that do MR-G within the business and gone, do a recreation of this. Doesn't do anything but tell the time, day, maybe an alarm. That's it. Straight basic functionality, except with modern electronics, but make it in a really premium case, premium bracelet, and sell it for $1,500. Make 1,000 of them, and you would have sold every one of them at $1,500, and it would have been an absolute banger of a watch. And I think that's what personally I would have done. I think this is a bit of a trying too hard by doing too much, but not enough at the same time.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, actually.
In a strange way, in many ways, they've given us value, but it's not the value we want. Correct. I think in a lot of ways, we would have paid more for less functionality, but more for aesthetics.
Can you imagine if they'd done this in, say, like, the premium steel or the titanium that you get those premium metal G-Shocks in? Really nice bracelet, nice clasp, basic module in it that just does exactly what you want it to do. I think that could be a great looking watch.
They could make it like Seiko does and really blow people's minds by using it in like ever brilliant steel and selling it at $5,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be. Well, if I've gone cap in hand to Casio,
Sam would go nuts.
I've gone cap in hand to Casio and seen if I can get a review one of these. So if I can, I'll definitely post a review of one. But yeah, I like that it exists. Well, that was our final pick, and that was the end of a great show, great panel, lots of good comments. So thanks everyone that got involved. Any final points? I think we covered everything, didn't we?
I just want to have a shout out for Sean, who's clearly our smartest commentator.
Pete is right.
just
you need a t-shirt on with that on, perhaps.
Brilliant. Love it.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you to the panel, and we'll see you next week on the Sunday Social. Thanks, everyone.
Take care, everyone.
Take it later.